Recap muna tayo. Okay? So, last Bible study, Jesus and his disciples arrived by boat in a place called Gerasin or Gadara. Right away, sinalubong sila ng lalaking sinasapian ng masasamang espiritu. Hindi lang isa kundi thousands of evil spirits ang namamahay sa lalaking ito. Kaya naman he was totally out of control. The demons controlled him. Sa libingan siya nakatira at araw at gabi siya ay nakahubad. People in that region had tried to chain him up, but nothing worked. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Imagine yung hirap na pinagdadaanan niya. He was tormented day and night. Kaya sinasaktan din niya ang kanyang sarili and ran wild into the wilderness. Nung makita niya si Jesus, the demons inside him freak out. Natakot sila dahil nakala nila i-judge na sila ni Jesus sa abyss. Kaya nakiusap sila kay Jesus not to send them away. Instead, they begged Jesus to send them into a herd of pigs na nandoon lang sa malapit. And Jesus allowed it. Not because sumusunod siya sa mga ito, kundi para ipakita sa mga tao ang power niya over them. Without his permission, hindi makakapasok sa mga pigs sa mga evil spirits. At dahil din doon, nakita ng mga tao na nakalaya na sa mga demonyo ang lalaki. Nakita din ng mga tao ang destructive nature ng mga evil spirits because as soon as they entered the pigs, the animals went wild and ran off a cliff into the lake and drowned. After that incident, the man was totally different. He was sitting with Jesus, listening to his teaching, fully dressed and in his right mind. Jesus had completely changed his life. Nung makita ito ng mga tao sa taon na iyon, natakot sila sa power na nasaksihan nila kay Jesus. So they asked Jesus to leave. This was the sad part of the story. Dahil nakita ng mga tao ang liwanag na dala ni Jesus, pero pinili pa rin nila na manatili sa dilim. Ang isa sa good parts naman ng story, yung lalaking pinagaling ni Jesus ay nakiusap kay Jesus na isama siya nito. But Jesus told him, "Go home and tell everyone what God has done for you." And that's exactly what he did. He told his whole town about how Jesus rescued him from the darkness and brought him into light. So doon nakita natin that Jesus has real power, even over things no one else can fix. And no matter how broken someone is, Jesus can restore them. Walang hopeless case kay Jesus. Only Him can restore or change a person. At nakita natin when someone truly encountered Jesus, may pagbabago sa kanyang buhay at nagsiserve yun as a testimony sa power ni Jesus to transform lives. Kaya hindi tayo sinave ni Jesus for nothing, kundi para ibahagi ang gospel sa iba. Ibahagi ang ginawa ni Jesus sa atin para magkaroon din sila ng personal na relasyon kay Jesus. At dahil pinaalis nga si Jesus ng mga tao sa Gerasenes, kaya bumalik siya sa Capernaum kung saan siya nanunuluyan. Dito sa aaralin natin, makikita natin ang dalawang tao na makakatanggap ng milagro mula kay Jesus. Ang isa ay si Jairus na leader ng sinagog. Ang nag-iisang anak nitong babae ay nasa bingit ng kamatayan at nakikiusap si Jairus kay Jesus na pagalingin ito. Eventually, ito ay namatay pero ito ay muling binuhay ni Jesus. Iyong isa naman ay yung babaeng dinudugo for 12 years. Naubos na ang pera nito sa pagpapatingin sa mga doctors pero walang makapagpagaling sa kanya. Pero sa paghawak lang niya sa laylayan ng robe ni Jesus, siya ay gumaling. So masasaksihan ulit natin dito, okay? Yung power ni Jesus over death and sickness na dala ng kasalanan. So simulan na nating himayin ang ating passages for today. Jesus heals a woman and Jairus' daughter. Verse 40, when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. Sa ating last Bible study na pag-aralan natin doon na pinaalis siya ng mga taga-Gerasene after makita ang nangyari doon sa demon-possessed man at narinig ang patotoo ng mga nakasaksi sa kapangyarihan ni Jesus na magpalayas ng mga demonyo. So Jesus and his disciples got into the boat, they returned to Galilee, kung saan sila nagmula. And when Jesus returned, the crowd welcomed him, for they were all expecting him. So noong makabalik na sila sa Capernaum, immediately a large crowd surrounded him. Makita yan sa account ni Mark. Dahil hinihintay talaga siya na makabalik dahil marami sa mga nandito ay may mga kapansanan. Kaya matyaga silang naghihintay sa kanyang pagbabalik at umaasang sila ay pagagalingin niya. And among those anxiously waiting for Jesus to return and resume his healing ministry were two very contrasting souls. One was a man, the other was a woman. Yung isa ay mayaman. Yung isa naman ay mahirap. Yung isa ay respected leader ng Jewish society. At yung isa naman ay rejected outcast. But each had a desperate need that only Jesus could meet. Luke introduced first the man. Just then, a man named Jairus came. He was a leader of the synagogue. He fell down at Jesus' feet and pleaded with him to come to his house because he had an only daughter, about 12 years old, and she was dying. While he was going, the crowds were nearly crushing him. Sa original Greek text, mababasa doon ang salitang behold or look. Pinapakita nito na ang kanyang pagkikipagkita kay Jesus was something unexpected or startling. Bakit? Because he was a leader of the synagogue. Bilang leader ng synagogue, he was a respected person. Dahil responsible siya sa pamamalakad at lahat ng activities sa synagogue, the focal point of Jewish religious life in his city. Ibig sabihin, talagang sumusunod siya sa Old Testament teaching at devoted siya sa religion of Judaism. In short, connected siya sa mga kumakalaban kay Jesus Christ. Connected siya sa mga taong gustong patayin si Jesus, ang mga scribes and Pharisees. Kaya unexpected na nandito siya sa crowd, anxiously waiting for Jesus. At noong makita niya ito, he fell down at Jesus' feet and pleaded with him to come to his house. Itong representative ng mga kalaban ni Jesus andito sa harapan niya. Nagmamakaawa na pumunta ito sa kanyang bahay. Pero sa time na ito, Jairus did not come as a representative of the religious elite, but as a loving father. Because he had an only daughter, about 12 years old, and she was dying. Literally at the point of death. Nag-aagaw buhay ang kanyang kaisa-isang anak na babae. Sinet aside niya ang iisipin ng kapwa niya Jewish leaders sa synagogue at wala na din siyang pakialam kung ano man ang iisipin sa kanya ng mga scribes and Pharisees sa ginawa niyang ito. All that mattered to him was that he get to Jesus and bring him to his daughter before it was too late. Sa chapter 4, Jesus had performed many miracles in Capernaum. Dito mismo sa lugar na ito, okay? At isa doon, yung pag-cast out ni Jesus sa demon-possessed man na nasa loob ng synagogue. Na maaaring na-witness ni Jairus dahil isa siya sa mga leaders ng synagogue. And then, maaaring nabalitaan din niya yung ginawang pagbuhay ni Jesus sa isang batang lalaki na anak ng isang widow sa Nain. Dahil 20 miles lang ang layo nito sa Capernaum at siguradong nakarating itong milagrong ito sa bayan ng Capernaum. Kaya aware si Jairus sa kapangyarihang taglay ni Jesus. Na siyang dahilan kung bakit nandito siya ngayon sa harapan ni Jesus. Nagmamakaawang sumama ito sa kanya dahil naniniwala siya na kayang pagalingin ni Jesus ang kanyang nag-aagaw buhay na anak. At bilang loving and compassionate God, sumama si Jesus sa bahay ni Jairus. Si Jesus hindi lang siya nagbi-minister sa maraming tao, kundi available din siya sa bawat individuals na nangangailangan ng tulong niya. At habang papunta si Jesus sa bahay ni Jairus, nagsisiksikan sa kanya ang mga tao. So sinundan siya ng napakaraming tao, all desperately wanting Jesus' attention. At isa doon sa mga nagsisisikang tao was a woman suffering from bleeding for 12 years, who had spent all she had on doctors and yet could not be healed by any. Approached from behind and touched the end of his robe, Instantly, her bleeding stopped. So na-interrupt ng babae ang pagpunta ni Jesus sa anak ni Jairus. The delay this woman caused would later on prove fatal to Jairus' daughter dahil ito ay mamamatay. Pero hindi worried si Jesus dahil alam naman niya ang kakayahan niyang bumuhay ng patay. Kaya hindi siya bothered kung ininterrupt man siya ng babae sa kanyang lakad papunta sa bahay ni Jairus. Jesus was used to being interrupted actually. Once while he was preaching a sermon, some mentor opened the roof above him and lowered a paralyzed man on a stretcher. Napag-aralan natin yan sa Luke chapter 5. Nung nagdi-dinner siya sa bahay ng isang Fariseo, ininterrupt din siya ng isang sinful cast-out woman, di ba? Despite the overwhelming demands, Jesus was never indifferent to individuals in need. Lagi siyang may time para sa lahat. Group man yan or individual, laging may time si Jesus Christ. So this woman had lived with a severe medical problem. She was suffering from bleeding for 12 years, as long as Jairus' daughter had been alive. So this woman had endured 12 years of misery and suffering. Yung mga lalaki dito, hindi sila masyadong makaka-relate sa pinagdadaanan ng babae, okay, na to. Pero yung mga kababaihan dito na nireregla, kahit papaano makaka-relate sa babae na ito. Before and during ng menstrual period ng babae, madami yang nararamdaman na sakit. May kilala ako na hindi siya makaalis sa bed or bedridden siya kapag may regla or menstruation. Imagine itong babae dito sa inaaral natin. Non-stop na pagdurugo ang kanyang nararanasan sa loob ng 12 taon. Her condition produced several physical effects like fatigue and lack of strength from blood loss and constant pain. At sigurado, nandun din yung takot niya na one day maaari niya itong ikamatay. But the social effects were even more severe kaysa sa physical effects. Sa kanila, ang babaeng may bleeding problem ay considered ceremonially unclean for as long as the condition persisted. Basahin natin sa Leviticus 15. Pakibasa, Kuya Ian.
When a woman has a discharge of her blood for many days, though it is not the time of her menstruation, or if she has a discharge beyond her period, she will be unclean all the days of her unclean discharge, as she is during the days of her menstruation. Any bed she lies on during the days of her discharge will be like her bed during menstrual impurity. Any furniture she sits on will be unclean as in her menstrual period. Everyone who touches them will be unclean. He must wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening.
So hindi siya pwedeng pumasok sa temple sa kalagayan niya na ito, okay? At hindi rin siya pwedeng umatin sa sinagog dahil sa kanyang kondisyon. Hindi rin siya pwedeng hawakan ng kahit sino, maging ang kanyang pamilya. Ganon din ang lahat ng kagamitan niya ay hindi rin nila pwedeng hawakan dahil magiging ceremonially unclean din sila. Ibig sabihin, she was an outcast, both in society and her own family. For 12 years, namumuhay siyang mag-isa, isolated sa pamilya niya at sa mga tao. Her situation was hopeless because she had spent all she had on doctors and yet could not be healed by any. Parang yung demon-possessed man sa inaral natin dati, kung saan no one can subdue him. Ito naman, no one could heal her. Yung condition niya ay hindi pa kayang gamutin sa time nila noon. At ang sabi ni Mark, instead na mapagaling siya ng mga doctors, ang condition daw niya ay mas lalo pang lumala. Basahin natin. Pagibasa, Kuya Nico.
Now a woman suffering from bleeding for 12 years had endured much under many doctors. She had spent everything she had and was not helped at all. On the contrary, she became worse.
So her money and hope gone. Cut off from friends and family. At dahil sa kanyang desperate situation, but at the same time, alam din niya na hindi niya dapat hawakan si Jesus. Kaya ang ginawa niya, she approached from behind and touched the end of his robe. Ayaw niyang makuha ang atensyon ng mga tao. Nahihiya siya sa kanyang kalagayan. Nahihiya siya sa kanyang unclean condition. Kaya sa likod ng laylayan lang ng robe lang niya hinawakan si Jesus. Ayaw din kasi niyang mapahiya at magalit ang crowd sa kanya. Kaya yung laylayan or tassel ng robe ni Jesus ang kanyang hinawakan. Sa Old Testament law, God had commanded the Jews to make themselves tassels on the four corners of their garment na ginagamit nilang bilang pang-cover sa kanilang sarili. Ito yung nagsisilbing robe or blanket din nila sa gabi. Those tassels sa may laylayan ng kanilang robe serves as a reminder of their obligation to obey God's commandments. Nasa number 15, verses 37 to 41 yan. So, isa marahil sa mga tassels ng robe ni Jesus ang hinawakan ng bleeding woman dito. At sa original language, hindi lang niya ito basta tinap. O yung parang hawak lang, okay, dampi. Hindi ganun ang ginawa niya, kundi she grabbed one and clutched it. Hinawakan niya ito ng mahigpit. After 12 years of suffering, at naubos na din ang pera niya sa mga doctors, si Jesus na lang ang natitirang pag-asa niya. Literally and figuratively, clung desperately to him. Sa record ni Matthew, sinabi niya doon ang dahilan kung bakit naisipang gawin ito ng babae. Basahin natin. Pakibasa, Ate Bella.
For she said to herself, if I can just touch his robe, I'll be made well.
At hindi naman siya nagkamali sa kanyang pananampalataya. Dahil pagkahawak niya sa laylayan ng robe ni Jesus, instantly, her bleeding stopped. God honor her faith, kaya pinagaling siya nito. At maaaring ito ang isang dahilan kung bakit may nakaugalian ng mga debotong Katoliko na paghawak sa damit ng mga rebulto nila. Dahil iniisip nila, nagagaling sila katulad ng nangyari sa babae dito. Ito ay hindi biblical, okay? Hindi ito inuutos ng Bible. People were healed by touching Jesus himself or items connected to living apostles like Peter's shadow sa Acts 5:15 or Paul's handkerchiefs sa Acts 19. These were real-time miracles connected directly to living God, empowered people, not ongoing rituals with man-made images. Kaya yung paghawak, paghalik, at pagdarasal sa mga images o rebulto like the statue of Nazarene or yung statue ni St. Peter bilang religious practice ay hindi makikita sa Bible at hindi sinasang-ayunan ng Bible. In fact, ito ay abomination or karumaldumal sa paningin ng Diyos dahil ito ay form of idolatry. Magbibigay lang ako ng isang supporting verse dito. Pero napakaraming verses na sumusuporta sa sinasabi ko. Dito tayo sa Exodus 20, verses 2 to 5. Pakibasa, Kuya Briggs.
Ako ang Panginoon na inyong Diyos na naglabas sa inyo sa Ehipto kung saan kayo inalipin. Huwag kayong sasamba sa ibang mga Diyos na maliban sa akin. Huwag kayong gagawa ng mga Diyos-Diyosan na anyo ng anumang bagay sa langit o sa lupa o sa tubig. Huwag ninyo itong paglilingkuran o sasambahin dahil ako ang Panginoon na inyong Diyos ay ayaw na may sinasamba kayong iba. Pinaparusahan ko ang mga nagkakasala sa akin, pati na ang mga anak hanggang sa ikatlo at ikaapat na henerasyon ng mga napopot sa akin.
Kaya hindi biblical ang practice na paghawak at pagdarasal sa mga santo-santo, kaya huwag nyo itong gagawin, okay? Sumunod lang tayo kung ano ang sinasabi ng Bible. So balik tayo ngayon sa babaeng gumaling. Makikita natin sa next verse na alam ni Jesus kapag ang umahawak sa kanya ay may pananampalataya. Kaya ang tanong niya, who touched me? Jesus asked. When they all denied it, Peter said, Master, the crowds are hemming you in and pressing against you.
And alas sila nag-ano eh. Yes.
So, sa totoo lang, tama naman ang sinabi ni Peter dahil napapaligiran si Jesus ng napakaraming tao at syempre matatamaan ng robe nito dahil sinisiksikan siya ng mga ito na sinang-ayunan naman ng ibang alagad na mababasa sa Mark 5 verse 31. His disciples said to him, "You see the crowd pressing against you, and yet you say, 'Who touched me?'" Pero dito natin makikita na alam pala ni Jesus ang paghawak ng taong may pananampalataya sa kanya. Ibig sabihin, the touch of faith was different. It was deliberate act of faith sa part ng babae, not just physical bump. And that's the kind of touch that matters to him. Her faith pulled on Jesus' divine authority, kaya naramdaman niya ito. It wasn't about physical sensation. It was about spiritual connection. Kaya fully aware si Jesus na mayroong spiritual transaction na nangyari. Healing power had flowed out in response to faith. Obviously, the omniscient Lord was not asking for information. He knew who had touched him and was calling for her to reveal herself. Ginawa ito ni Jesus para sa kapakanan ng babae. Ang intention ni Jesus dito ay hindi lang basta i-restore ang physical health ng babae, kundi gusto niya ding i-restore ang reputasyon nito by making her healing known publicly. At ang pinakamahalaga sa lahat is to restore her spiritually to God. Jesus wanted everyone to know how powerful faith is and that He cares about people personally. This woman, her physical problem solved and was on the way to salvation. Parang ako, katulad ko, yung nangyari sa akin, nakatanggap ako ng physical and mental healing mula sa Diyos, and at the same time, iniligtas din niya ako sa wrath ni God sa lake of fire. Maraming pinagaling na tao si Jesus kahit wala silang faith sa Kanya. Pero never siyang nag-save ng tao nang walang faith sa Kanya. Maaari kang pagalingin ni Jesus sa physical illness mo, and yet hindi save ang kaluluwa mo sa wrath ni God. Magkaiba ang dalawang yon, okay? Dito sa inaaral natin, natanggap parehas ng babae ang healing physically and spiritually. Kaya Jesus insisted in the next verse, "Someone did touch me," said Jesus. "I know that power has gone out from me." This is one of the most profound things Jesus ever said. He was fully aware that power had gone out of him. Makita natin dito that the power of God is not like a vending machine where power just flows impersonally. Kahit sinong maghulog ng coins, lalabas ang gusto nilang item sa vending machine. Walang personal connection. Ang power ni Jesus ay hindi ganon. He noticed and responded. Not just to her act, but also to the faith behind it. Pinapakita nito that His power is relational and purposeful. Jesus was fully aware of her action. No one ever receives the power of God into his her life without acute awareness on his part. Kaya nasabi ni Jesus, "I know that power has gone out from me." Alam ni Jesus kapag may divine power na na-release sa Kanya. Hindi ibig sabihin nito na nalilesen ang power niya or he runs out of power when he helps others. Hindi ganon, okay? So magkaroon muna tayo ng object lesson para maunawaan nyo ang sinasabi ko. Wait lang. Okay. So kailangan makita nyo aking okay. So nakita nyo ba? Itong kandila dito. So imagine itong kandila, itong hawak ko na to, okay, itong single na kandila dito. Ito muna. Sige, dito tayo malapit. So, imagine itong mga kandila dito, ang mga taong nangangailangan ng healing mula kay Jesus. At itong single candle dito, nire-represent nito si Jesus Christ. Okay? So, sisindihan ko ngayon ang mga ito sa pamagitan ng kandilang nagre-represent kay Jesus Christ. Tingnan natin. Dalawa na lang. Sige, tatlo na. Tatluhin na natin para kumpleto. Okay. So, yan. So, ngayon, may power or light na ang bawat kandila na nire-represent ng mga tao na nangangailangan ng tulong ni Jesus. Ang tanong ko ngayon, did the big candle lose its light or get smaller? Nawala ba or nalesen ng liwanag or power ng kandila na nagbigay ng light sa ibang kandila? Nakita nyo? Hindi, di ba? I-blow ko na to Nakita nyo, nandito pa rin. Maliwanag pa rin. Hindi naman na-lessen ang liwanag nitong kandila kung saan ginamit ko, di ba? Na pangsindi dito sa tatlong kandila dito. Patayin ko muna. So, ganun din ang power ni Jesus. Alam niya kapag may nakakatanggap ng kanyang power, but it doesn't mean nauubos or nawawala ang power niya. At sa inaaral natin, Jesus' power went out to help the woman but he didn't get weaker. Just like the candle in our illustration, it still burns brightly. Jesus is always strong even when he gives us his power, love, or healing. Hindi siya nababawasan, okay? Dahil Diyos siya. Ibig sabihin lang nito na ang ginagawang healing ni Jesus ay personal. Kaya alam niya, naramdaman niya. Andun yung intention niya na magpagaling ng mga tao. Dahil alam niya ito, hindi parang nakaprogram na automatic na lumalabas lang sa kanya. And in verse 47, when the woman saw that she was discovered, she came trembling and fell down before him. In the presence of all the people, she declared the reason she had touched him and how she was instantly healed. Na-realize ng babae na hindi na siya makakapagtago pa sa kanyang ginawa. So, she came trembling and fell down before him. Banal na pagkatakot ang naramdaman ng babae dito at lumuhod siya sa harapan ni Jesus as a form of worship. And in the presence of all the people, she declared the reason she had touched him and how she was instantly healed. Tulad ng demon-possessed man na pinagaling ni Jesus, nag-testify din ng babaeng ito sa mga crowd kung paano siya nakatanggap ng healing sa pamagitan lang ng paghawak niya ng may pananampalataya sa tassel ni Jesus. Tulad ng sabi ko kanina, hindi lang physical healing ang gustong ibigay sa babae ni Jesus, kundi gusto din niyang i-restore ang social status nito at magkaroon ng spiritual salvation. Kaya ang sabi ni Jesus sa next verse, "Daughter," he said to her, "your faith has saved you. Go in peace." Sa pagsasabi niyang, "your faith has saved you," we can assume na hindi lang physical healing ang natanggap ng babae dito, kundi spiritual salvation din. Dahil ang word na save dito translate a form of the verb sozo, which means to heal, rescue, deliver, and it is also the common New Testament word for salvation. Ito yung same phrase na ginamit niya sa sinful woman sa chapter 7. Pakibasa, Ate Hana.
Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven. That's why she loved much. But the one who is forgiven little loves little. Then he said to her, your sins are forgiven. And he said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace.
So clearly this refers to salvation from sin. Ginamit din ito sa Luke 17 verse 19 to describe one of the 10 lepers who returned to worship Jesus. Though all 10 were healed, yung isang bumalik lang ang nasave. Ito lang ang napatawad sa kanyang kasalanan. Further evidence na may spiritual restoration na nangyari dahil sa pagsasabi ni Jesus na, "Go in peace." This isn't just, "You are good to go now." This phrase is often used when someone has been made whole, spiritually and relationally. Example natin dyan ay yun ngang sinful woman sa chapter 7. Ibig sabihin, itong bleeding woman dito sa ating story was no longer under condemnation, kaya she can go in peace. Magkakaroon ka lang ng totoong peace kapag na-reconciled ka na sa Diyos Ama. Kapag napatawad na ang iyong mga kasalanan at alam mo na wala nang parusang naghihintay sa'yo. Sabi nga sa Romans 8:1, "So now there is no condemnation for those who belong to Christ Jesus." Tulad ng sabi ko kanina, pwede kang gumaling, pero hindi save ang iyong kaluluwa sa apoy ng impyerno. Magkakaroon ka lang ng spiritual salvation kapag napatawad na ang iyong mga kasalanan dahil tinanggap mo ang kabayaran ng mga ito na ino-offer ni Jesus Christ. Sumampalataya ka kay Jesus Christ sa kanyang ginawa. Yun ang reason kung bakit mapapatawad ang ating mga kasalanan. Sa paghawak ng babae kay Jesus, hindi lang siya naniwala sa power ni Jesus na magpagaling, na mapapagaling siya nito, kundi sumasampalataya din siya sa person ni Jesus. Kung sino ba talaga si Jesus, na ito ay ang kanilang Mesaya, ang sugo at anak ng Diyos, di ba? So, another evidence na may spiritual salvation na nangyari ay dahil sa pagtawag ni Jesus sa babae na daughter. This is the only time in the Gospels that Jesus used that word daughter to address a woman. A term of spiritual belonging, not just kindness. Pagpapakita ito, nakabahagi na ang babae sa kingdom ni God. Pinapakita nito that Jesus received her as a child of His kingdom, tulad ng sinasabi sa John 1:12, that those who did receive Jesus, yung mga sumampalataya sa Kanya, to those who believe in His name, He gave them the right to be children of God. So, He had the power. Her faith wasn't just in touching a garment. It was faith in who Jesus is. She came to Him believing He had the power to make her whole, and He did. Body and soul. She was restored physically, socially, and spiritually through the grace and personal power of the Lord Jesus Christ. He doesn't just say, "You are healed," but uses a phrase connected to restoration, peace, and salvation. So Luke is the gospel writer who emphasizes salvation, especially for the marginalized, like women, Gentiles, the sick, the sinful. Yung madalas na paggamit niya sa word na sozo or save carries full redemptive meaning, not just physical healing. Gustong i-emphasize ni Luke that Jesus isn't just in the business of healing bodies. He saves souls. And in verse 49, while he was still speaking, someone came from the synagogue leader's house and said, "Your daughter is dead. Don't bother the teacher anymore." So habang kausap pa ni Jesus, yung pinagaling niyang babae, Jairus received the bad news na kanyang kinakatakutang mangyari. Someone came from his house and told him, "Your daughter is dead." Tulad ng nasabi ko kanina, yung pag-interrupt ng babae sa lalaki, sa lakad ni Jesus, papunta sa bahay ni Jairus, ay magkukos ng kamatayan sa anak nito. Habang nagbi-minister si Jesus sa isang lowly outcast, the child of one of Capernaum's leading citizens had died. Obviously, yung unnamed messenger na galing sa bahay ni Jairus ay hindi naniniwala na kayang bumuhay ng patay ni Jesus Christ. Kaya para sa kanya, wala nang silbi na abalahin pa si Jesus na pumunta sa bahay ni Jairus. Kaya sinabi niya kay Jairus, "Don't bother the teacher anymore." Though hindi isinulat ni Luke dito kung ano ang paniniwala ni Jairus na kayang gawin ni Jesus, pero makikita natin ito sa account ni Matthew. Dahil hindi siya nakinig sa taong nagsabing wag nang abalahin si Jesus. Instead, nilapitan niya si Jesus, lumuhod sa harapan niya at nakiusap na buhayin ang anak nito. Pakibasa, Kuya Nathan.
As Jesus was saying this, the leader of a synagogue came and knelt before him. My daughter has just died, he said, but you can bring her back to life again if you just come and lay your hand on her.
So unlike the doubtful messenger, Jairus believed that Jesus had the power to raise his daughter from the dead, katulad ng ginawa niya sa batang lalaki sa Nain. And when Jesus heard it, he answered him, "Don't be afraid, only believe, and she will be saved." So when Jesus heard Jairus' report of his daughter's death, he answered him, "Don't be afraid, only believe, and she will be saved." Jesus was not making Jairus' faith a condition para buhayin niya ang anak nito. Hindi ganon, okay? Hindi niya sinasabihan dito si Jairus na maniwala ka at mabubuhay, at pagka naniwala ka, mabubuhay ang anak ko. Hindi ganon, okay? Hindi condition yung faith ni Jairus dito. Kundi ine-encourage niya si Jairus at ina-assure ito na magtiwala sa kanya at wala siyang dapat ikatakot. Although makikita natin dito na may pananampalataya or faith si Jairus na kayang buhayin ni Jesus ang kanyang anak, but his faith was mingled with fear. May halong takot or pag-aalinlangan. That's why the Lord exhorted him to stop being afraid and to keep believing in his promise that his daughter would be made well. After he came to the house, he let no one enter with him except Peter, John, James, and the child's father and mother. So Jesus finally came to Jairus' house, and he let no one enter with him except doon sa kanyang tatlong close disciples, sina Peter, John, James, at doon sa magulang ng bata. He singled out Peter, James, and John from the rest of the disciples for the first time, as they would often be in the future. Makikita nyo yan kung nagbabasa kayo ng gospel, makita nyo na laging sila ang kasama ni Jesus Christ. Sila yung nasa inner circle niya, okay? Hindi natin alam ang dahilan kung bakit, pero sila yung pinili niya na makasama niya dito. At nanatili sa labas yung ibang disciples kasama ng mga crowd. So noong makapasok na sila sa bahay ni Jairus, the Lord witnessed a commotion na mababasa sa Mark 5 verse 38. With the flute players and the crowd in noisy disorder na mabasa naman sa Matthew 9:23. Everyone was crying and mourning for her. But he said, "Stop crying, because she is not dead, but asleep." Dahil bawal sa kultura ng mga Hudyo ang mag-embalsamo ng patay, kaya marahil nasabihan na ang mga professional mourners dito na ang batang babae ay nag-aagaw buhay na. Kaya by the time the Lord arrived, the funeral was in full swing. Kabaligtaran sa mga modern funerals na typically quiet, somber, and solemn, sa first century Jewish funeral ay maingay at magulo. Yung mga mourners, both the friends and family of the loved ones, as well as the traditional hired female mourners. Ito yung mga binabayadan nila para umiyak sa patay or funerals. Kasama ito sa kanilang kultura. Okay, example, basahin natin sa Jeremiah 9:17. Pakibasa. Kuya Denver, nandyan ba? Wala si Kuya Denver? Si Ate Laika na lang.
Sinasabi pa ng Panginoon, makapangyarihan. Isipin niyo kung ano ang mga mangyayari. Tawagin niyo ang mga babaeng taga-iyak, lalo na ang mga sanay sa pag-iyak.
So mga babae na trained to wail loudly, cry, beat their chest, and sometimes they sing funeral songs or minsan pinupunit pa nila ang kanilang mga damit bilang pagpapakita ng matinding pagdadalamhati. Their job was to create an atmosphere of deep sorrow, especially in public or for prominent people. And since si Jairus ay isang prominenteng tao dahil isa siya sa mga leader sa lugar na yun, di ba? Isa siya sa mga leader ng synagogue at well-respected siya sa kanilang lugar. Kaya naman the funeral for his daughter would have been even larger and louder than the mosque. Kumbaga, mas marami ang mga professional mourners na nandito. But Jesus said to them, "Stop crying, because she is not dead, but asleep." So Jesus' declaration that the girl had not died, but was asleep, brought a new perspective to death. By likening it to sleep, he redefined death as temporary. Kaya mababasa sa Bible na laging ginagamit ang word na sleep as a metaphor for the body in death. Example, sa Acts 13:36, pakibasa Ate Chloe.
For David, after serving God's purpose in his own generation, fell asleep, was buried with his fathers, and decayed.
So Jesus was speaking from a heavenly perspective. To the people around him, the girl was clearly dead. They were already mourning. But Jesus sees differently because he knows death is not final for those who trust him. In Jesus' eyes, death is temporary. Kaya he often referred to death as sleep to show that he has the power to wake people up from it, just as easily as we wake someone from sleep. Kaya noong sabihin ni Jesus na natutulog lang ang batang babae, hindi naman niya dinideny na patay ito, okay? He's showing that he has authority over death. At yung gagawin niya dito ay preview ng gagawin niyang resurrection sa lahat ng taong sumasampalataya sa kanya. Pero yung body lang natin ang temporarily will sleep in death, okay? Ililinawin ko. Yung katawan lang natin ang temporarily na parang natutulog, okay? Yung soul natin ay hindi. Kapag tayo ay namatay, once namatay ang taong na kay Christ, mabubulok sa grave ang kanyang body, pero makakasama naman ni Jesus sa langit ang kanyang kaluluwa. Basahin natin, 2 Corinthians 5:8. Pakibasa, Kuya Ian. Nandiyan ba si Kuya Ian? Makakabasa ba?
Opo. We are confident and we would prefer to leave the body and to be at home with the Lord.
Ganon din sa Philippians 1:23. Pakibasa, Kuya Nico.
I didn't know what I prefer. I'm torn between the two because I want to live this life and be with Christ, which is far better.
So malinaw. Though the body sleeps temporarily in death, temporary lang, okay? The soul does not. Kaya sinabi ko naman temporary mag-sleep yung ating body kasi sa ang tawag doon, yung nalimutan ko yung term. Yung tatawagin ni Jesus Christ. Rapture. Okay, sorry, nawala. Kapag doon sa time ng rapture kasi magmi-meet ang ating yung ating body sa grave at yung spirit natin magmi-meet yan at magkakaroon tayo ng glorified body ng katulad ng kay Jesus Christ. Yun ang sinasabi ng Bible. Okay? At masasabi natin na yung mga na-encounter ni Jesus dito na umiiyak ay mga professional mourners ang karamihan sa kanila because they quickly shifted from crying to mocking him. Sa verse 53, they laugh at him because they knew she was dead. Yung pagtawa nila sa sinabi ni Jesus ay pagpapakita that it was not deep personal grief but part of the cultural or hard response yung kanilang pag-iyak. At mababasa sa account ni Mark na pinalabas ni Jesus ang mga ito. Ayan, pakibasa, Kuya Nathan.
They laughed at him, but he threw them all out. Then, taking the child's parents and his disciples with him, he went to the room where the child was.
So, pagpasok niya sa kwarto kung saan nandoon ang katawan ng batang babae, so he took her by the hand and called out, "Child, get up." Her spirit returned, and she got up at once. Then he gave orders that she be given something to eat. Nabasa natin kanina na nakiusap si Jairus to lay his hand on his daughter and restore her to life. And the Lord Jesus willingly did so. Using the power by which he had created everything, Jesus commanded life into her. Nawalan ng power ang kamatayan sa batang babae, and her spirit returned. Life came back into her body. Not just any life, but her life. Tulad sa nangyari sa anak na lalaki ng widow sa Nain. And later on, ganun din kay Lazarus na kaibigan ni Jesus. When her life was restored, she got up at once. At sa book ni Mark, she walked. Like all of Jesus' healings, this was not a progressive healing. Hindi gradual, walang rehabilitation or recovery period. The Lord spoke, and she was instantly and fully restored to life. After the child got up, Jesus then gave orders that she be given something to eat. This again reveals his tender, compassionate care. Pinapatunayan din nito na hindi lang ilusyon ng pagkabuhay ng bata, kundi totoong resurrection ang nangyari sa kanya. Tulad ng ginawang pagkain ni Jesus ng isda sa harapan ng kanyang mga alagad after ng kanyang muling pagkabuhay, bilang patunay na totoo ang kanyang muling pagkabuhay at hindi ilusyon lamang. Yung ginagawang pagbuhay ng mga patay ni Jesus noong nandito pa siya sa lupa ay pagpapakita ng kanyang power over death na one day gagawin din niya sa lahat ng tao. Believer ka man or unbeliever. Either into the resurrection of life or into the resurrection of judgment. Basahin natin sa John 5 verses 28 to 29. Pakibasa, Ate Princess.
Huwag ninyo itong pagtakhan, sapagkat darating ang oras na maririnig ng mga patay ang kanyang tinig at sila'y babangon. Lahat ng gumawa ng kabutihan ay babangon patungo sa buhay na walang hanggan, at lahat ng gumawa ng kasamaan ay babangon patungo sa kaparusahan.
The bodies of believers will be raised and reunited with their spirits to live forever in heaven. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. The bodies of unbelievers will be reunited with their spirits to experience everlasting punishment in hell. Kaya hindi kailangang katakutan ng mga believers o yung mga followers, totoong disciple ni Jesus, ang kamatayan, because they have put their faith in the one who conquered it. At dahil muling nabuhay ang bata, her parents were astounded, but he instructed them to tell no one what had happened. Yung word na astounded ay existemi sa Greek, which means to drive one out of his senses or to lose one's senses. Ito yung hindi ka halos makapaniwala sa nasaksihan mo. Kung hindi mo nasaksihan ang pangyayaring ito, maaaring hindi mo ito paniwalaan. Ganong level ng pagkamangha ang naranasan ng mga magulang ng bata. Their daughter was restored to life. At kahit sino, magulang ka man or just a mere spectator, ay mamamangha ka talaga sa ginawa ni Jesus sa bata. And then Jesus instructed them to tell no one what had happened. Ibig sabihin ba nito ayaw ni Jesus na malaman ng mga tao ang miracle na ginawa niya? Hindi ganon, okay? Magsabi man kasi ang mga magulang or hindi, the news was impossible to keep secret. Dahil lahat ng andoon sa bahay ay makikita na muling nabuhay ang bata. Kaya sa account ni Matthew, mababasa doon that the news about this is spread throughout the whole region. At kahit sinong nakasaksi sa isang kamanghamanghang pangyayari ay ibabalita sa lahat ng kakilala nila. Hindi na kailangan pang magsalita ng mga magulang. Yung pagkabuhay ng bata ay sapat ng evidence sa ginawa ni Jesus. Pero sa time na ito, kaya sinabihan sila ni Jesus na huwag sabihin kanino man ang nangyari, ay dahil ayaw ni Jesus na mag-create ng unnecessary attention. May mga times talaga na kapag gumagawa si Jesus ng miracle, ayaw niya na ipamalita ito because he was avoiding the wrong kind of attention. Ayaw niyang dumugin siya ng mga crowds at maging dahilan nito sa pagkaudlot ng kanyang ministry. Jesus didn't come just to impress. He came to save. Sa time na ito, many people follow Jesus for the miracles, not for who he truly was. the Son of God. If word is spread too fast that he raised a dead girl, the crowds might treat him like a magician or a celebrity, rush to him for signs, and distract him from his real mission, which is preaching the kingdom of God and saving souls. Alam din niya that too much attention too soon could lead to conflict with religious leaders before the right time na maaaring makaudlot sa pangangaral niya ng salita ng Panginoon. Maaari ding by force ay gawin siyang hari ng mga Hudyo. Jesus cared about people, not publicity nor popularity. He wanted the people to believe in who he really was, God's Son, who came to save sinners and not just a miracle worker or a healer. When he is proclaimed, it must be as the crucified and risen Savior. There's no gospel of Jesus Christ without the cross in all its meaning and the resurrection with all that it accomplished. Walang kwenta, okay? Walang gospel, walang good news, walang salvation kung ipapakilala natin si Jesus sa mga tao bilang mga magaling na manggagamot lang, bilang miracle worker lang, bilang problem solver lang. Walang salvation doon, okay? Ang pinakamahalaga at ang gusto rin ng Panginoon, ipagkatulad din ang sinabi ni Apostle Paul na ang crucified Christ at yung kanyang muling pagkabuhay ang ating ipahayag sa mga tao. Dahil ito ang magre-reunite sa kanila, magre-reconcile sa kanila sa Diyos Ama. Kaya ayaw niyang makilala siya in a wrong way. So these two accounts of two of the countless miracles the Lord Jesus Christ performed reveals his personal, compassionate concern for hurting people. To the oppressed and burdened, he offers rest. For the troubled, he provides peace. And most important of all, to those enslaved by sin, he offers salvation through the cross and resurrection to come. Ano ang takeaway natin ngayon dito? Una, Jesus responds to faith no matter who you are. So whether you are a respected synagogue leader like Jairus or an outcast woman who's been suffering for years, Jesus sees and responds to genuine faith. No one is too important, too broken, or too forgotten for Jesus. Lahat ng taong lalapit sa Kanya nang may pananampalataya ay hindi niya itataboy. Next, God's timing may feel slow, but it's never late. While Jesus posed to help the woman, Jairus' daughter died. But Jesus wasn't too late. He was right on time to raise her to life. So trust God's timing even when it doesn't make sense. At madalas, yung timing ni God, hindi talaga nagme-make sense sa ating human understanding. Dahil ang way ng Panginoon ay iba sa way natin. And lastly, Jesus brings peace and restoration for both body and soul, okay? The woman wasn't just healed physically. Jesus called her daughter and gave her peace. He met her deepest needs at yun ay spiritual healing or salvation. Jesus doesn't just fix situations. He regenerates hearts. So no matter what you are going through, sickness man yan, fear, waiting, baka matagal ka nang may pinapanalangin sa Diyos at naghihintay ng kanyang kasagutan, or feeling invisible, Jesus sees you, loves you, and calls you to trust Him. His power is real and His love is personal. So kung may mga loved ones kayo na sa tingin nyo hopeless case na, wala nang pag-asang magbago, or nireject si Jesus Christ ng ilang beses, hindi sa Panginoon, okay? Sa Kanya walang hopeless case dahil walang imposible sa Diyos. So dito nagtatapos ang ating lesson for today, and I pray na meron kayong natutunan sa ating pinag-aralan na magiging encouragement sa inyo at ma-apply nyo sa inyong pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay. So thank you for listening. God bless everyone. To God be all the glory.